Welcome to the Growing Tall Poppies podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Nat Green, and I'm so excited to have you join me as we discuss what it means to navigate your way through post-traumatic growth and not just survive, but to thrive after trauma. Through our podcast, we will explore ways for you to create a life filled with greater purpose, self-awareness, and a deep inner peace. Through integrating the many years of knowledge and professional experience, as well as the wisdom of those who have experienced trauma firsthand, we will combine psychology, accelerated approaches, coaching, and personal experience to assist you to learn, to grow, and to thrive. I hope to empower you to create deeper awareness and understanding and stronger connections with yourself and with others, whilst also paving the way for those who have experienced trauma and adversity to reduce their suffering and become the very best versions of themselves in order to thrive. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I'm super excited today and grateful to bring you our next guest on the Growing Tall Poppies podcast. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome a lovely lady who I met last year in some podcast training, actually. She has experienced some trauma and adversity throughout her life and has agreed to come and chat with us today about her personal and her professional experience and has beautifully offered to share her wisdom with us. So let me start by welcoming Dr. Michelle Peticolas. Dr. Michelle is an international best-selling author of Step Into Your Brilliance, as well as several other books. She's the award-winning filmmaker of Secrets of Life and Death, a professional speaker and life transformation coach. Dr. Michelle helps high-achieving midlife women who have been thrown off track by a major loss to release their complex grief and transmute it into fuel for achieving their soul's purpose. Using her unique framework, S.E.R.V.E, she guides her clients through their grief healing, mind reset, and reconnection to their authentic brilliance. So let me welcome Dr. Michelle.
Thank you, Nate. It is my pleasure to be here.
It's an absolute delight to finally catch up again because I know it's been a little while. So I know that I gave a brief introduction, but could we start with you giving us a bit more of an intro of who you are and what you do in the world?
I would be happy to. So a lot of people ask me why I work with people around grief. What compels me to do that? Well, it goes back to an experience I've had most of my life about waking up in the morning in a state of panic and fear. And this, what I used to handle it with was to jump out of my bed right away and get on with my life. But I started to think at one point that maybe in a past life, I had been murdered in my sleep.
Oh my goodness.
That's what I thought. But then later on, when I met my second husband, when we were first getting together, I realized I had abandonment issues. Whoa. Well, certainly my first husband abandoned me for another woman. But then I realized that it went all the way back to when I was 2 years old. And I had bonded with my father, and then he was transferred by the U.S. Army to Japan. And for a 2-year-old, even though it wasn't a long time, it was traumatic. And my mother was not able to step up and help me out because she was busy moving a household and 3 kids to Japan. So the time was long enough that I decided I lost my trust in my father, in love, and in myself. And I decided to take life into my own hands. And I made an agreement with the world that I would give people what they wanted, and in return, I would get the attention that I craved. And so
Mm.
I became, I guess, what you could call a people pleaser.
Yes.
And Nate, it worked really well for many years. Worked
Mm.
really well in school and went all the way to the PhD.
I
Just
can
kept on
imagine.
accumulating those awards and those
Mm.
recognitions.
Yes.
And then it stopped working well. It
Okay.
was like the universe had conspired to wake me up.
Mm.
So when I met my current husband, I realized I had an issue and I actually did some early childhood program healing.
Mhm.
And what really, really woke me up was when my mother was dying.
Okay.
First, my father died, and then 6 months later, my mother was dying of breast cancer. And I went back home to help her finish up business. She was a toy designer. She and
Wow.
my aunt went to major toy companies in New York City and sold their designs. So, in some ways, she was like the poster child for living your life passion.
Absolutely. Amazing.
But I didn't appreciate that back then.
Mm.
Anyway, I was in her studio going through her papers and I picked up one. It was one of her designs, a Xerox copy, really. And I handed it to her and I said, "Do you need this anymore?" And she looked at it. She said, "Oh, I guess I'll never finish that project."
Oh.
Her words pierced my heart,
Oh, they would have.
just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
In that moment, Nate, I understood what deadline really meant.
Mm. That's a really powerful, yeah, moment for
It
sure.
was a powerful moment.
Life changing.
It was. Unfortunately, my emotions were just beginning to come online again. I tamped them
Mm.
down when I was 2 years old,
Yeah.
and I was afraid. So I took the paper back and I said, "We don't need to deal with this right now." And that moment, Nate, that moment I craved with my mother all my life, that close intimacy was lost
Mm.
forever. She died 2 weeks later,
Oh dear.
but it woke me up.
Mm.
Her little regret became my huge regret.
Okay.
And what I realized is that if she, who was my poster child for living your passion, could
Mm.
have regrets, where did that leave me? The people pleaser.
Mm.
I made up my mind right then and there I would not live my life with regrets.
Beautiful. I love it.
And I decided I was going to make a film series. Well, actually decided I was going to make a film about death, and it became a series.
Ah.
But what I wanted to do was to wake other people up to this life and that it's short and that you never know when it's going to end. And if you don't live it, you're going to end up with regrets.
Mm.
And then that got me into hospice. And then I got into gradually into realizing that I had this calling for grief and loss. I'm
Mm.
telling you, I just went to a party on 4th of July for,
Yep. Yep.
the United States. And people were telling me their life stories, their trauma. I was like, why do I have a sign on me?
Yeah. Normally, I'm the one that has that sign all over my head when I go out. It's like, really?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like they just know. It's like their heart knows that I
Yeah.
can hold a space for them.
Mm. And what a powerful gift your mum gave you unknowingly that you were able to do what so many people never get the chance to realize. Because you're right, there's nothing worse than if we were on our deathbed or in our last days to have all these regrets of unfinished things and things we couldn't undo.
Yeah, there was a book by the woman Bronnie Ware. I think she was Australian, wasn't she? She wrote
I
the
don't know.
Five Regrets of the Dying, and the
Oh,
number
I'll have
one
to look at
regret
that.
was, and it's Bronnie, not Bonnie, but Bronnie
Okay.
Ware, And she wrote this book, Five Regrets of the Dying. And the number one regret is not living a life true to yourself, living the life everybody
Mm.
else wants for you, but
Yes.
not the life you want.
So tell me then, Michelle, as a reformed people pleaser, I'm assuming now. So living your life as a people pleaser, then having this huge realization that life is short. You can't live with regret. So you have to live in the moment and live every minute of the day. Did that change your people pleasing pattern?
Well, it is deeply embedded, but it has made me more aware
Mm-hmm.
of that tendency to please others
Yeah.
and to recognize when I'm doing too much and to pull back and to say no and to learn to say no.
Excellent.
And, but it's hard because, we're women. So never mind just the people pleasing, we're women and women are taught to be of service to people, aren't they?
Absolutely. And then
So,
working in the area that you work, it's very much around giving. But as you said, we can please people, but it's also around having those clear boundaries, isn't it?
well, and because I want my clients to get results,
Mm-hmm.
I that's what my focus is. And so I don't necessarily give them what they want, I give them what they need
Yes.
and what is going to move them forward. And that I've developed over a number of years of doing coaching. That I have developed tools that are really effective for helping people break through their emotional blocks and change their thoughts.
Which is, as we know, so needed, isn't it?
It is so needed.
And particularly, so you're working mainly now in grief and loss.
So I work with complex grief.
Mm-hmm.
People ask, well, what's complex grief? Like me, people have wounds and trauma earlier in their life that's never been healed. For me, it was that abandonment from my father was never healed. And so when I had the loss of my parents, it magnified the
Mm.
intensity of the loss. It's like all the other losses that were never resolved come bubbling up to the top.
Yes.
And they make it more complex. They make it more
Mm.
difficult. And some people they can get stuck. I had
Yeah.
a woman, a client who came to me, we'll call her Agnes.
Yep.
She had been grieving the loss of her husband for 20 years. When
20.
I first saw her, tears rolling down her cheeks,
Oh.
I'm like, 20 years. Well, it
Mm.
turned out she had experienced abandonment 3 times before she ever met her husband. First, her
Mm.
father left her. Then her grandmother died. Her mother was not available, was not responsible, and
Mm.
so when she met her husband, he was like the answer, the solution to her abandonment. And then
Yeah,
he
I bet.
died young, and it
Oh,
was like,
goodness.
and when I met her, she was on her way to abandonment number 5
Oh.
because her son reminded her of her husband, and every time she saw him, she would cry.
Mm. So
Yeah,
many layers,
so
so
many
many
layers.
layers and layers and layers to peel away when you're working with someone with so many compounded issues. Yeah.
Compounded issues. But here's the thing is that if you have an issue around abandonment, and it's probably any kind of little complex,
Hmm.
is that it will keep on, you'll keep on attracting it to yourself until you finally face it and work on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a lot of that, what we call shadow work, isn't it? That
It
we have
is.
to face
You
the
have
things
to
that are
face the
hidden
shadow.
away there, because if we don't face the shadows and the things that are in the dark, we're going to keep getting more of that until we
That's
get that
right.
lesson, really,
That's,
isn't it?
yep. That's really
Mm.
true. That's really true.
Yeah. So tell me a bit more then about how that works when you're working with someone like Agnes.
So I have a system which has the name S.E.R.V.E. So instead of having grief overwhelm you, stop you in your life, destroy your life, you let it serve you. And you let it serve you by taking each of those letters and it corresponds to an action. S, means surrender. Means you need to surrender to your emotions. Most of the people that I run into when I first meet them, they have a hard time allowing their feelings. Either they have learned to repress them, which
Hmm.
a lot of us in the United States are taught how to repress our feelings,
I don't think it's
or
just the United States,
no,
Michelle.
probably not, but I'm not pretending to know all of the world.
No.
But so we repress our feelings because it's not acceptable,
Hmm.
and or we're terrified that if we allow our feelings, that we'll become swamped, that we will never get out of the dark hole.
Yes.
So I teach my clients how to release any emotion in 2 minutes or less.
In 2 minutes.
Yes, yes.
That's powerful.
It
Like
is.
magic.
It is. It is. And that's what I do. And once they learn how to do that, they feel empowered. And then they allow themselves to grieve. And that was what happened to Agnes, was she had actually never really fully allowed herself to grieve. When she would grieve, she would become swamped in the grief,
Yeah.
because the mind likes to jump in and tell us these terrible things and
Mm.
recycle the grief over and over and over again. So we have to stop that pattern. And once you stop that pattern and allow yourself to actually release the emotion, and
Yes.
just the emotion without the mindset, it really will release in 2 minutes or less.
That permission is really, really important. So acknowledging it and permission. And, I know a lot of our listeners are people who've been through trauma, but with that trauma is very much grief, and often compounded grief that's built up and built up. And there's that fear of, if I actually deal with it, I won't cope.
I'll never come back.
Yeah.
I'll get stuck in there and I'll never come back. And
Mm.
right now, I'm working with a client who has depression, and
Mhm.
she's terrified of allowing her feelings because she's afraid that she'll fall into that hole and not be able to
Yeah.
get out. And it's
We
a
see
real
that a
fear.
lot. Yeah. And it's understandable, isn't it? That
It
when you've
totally.
been through so much, that you try to contain it, because it's, like a river that will not stop flowing. I remember when my mum passed away and I was in my 20s, and we knew, she was dying, but I still remember my sister, 6 years younger than me, and I was crying yet again because my mum was dying, and that was a
Yeah.
very difficult experience. But I remember my sister's words very clearly. Oh, you've cried enough. You've cried a river of tears. For goodness sake, how much more can you cry? And I thought, oh, okay. So it was almost that not being allowed to continue to cry. I still did
Right.
because I couldn't help it at the time.
Right. 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 Right.
But again,
Yeah.
those words stick with
Yeah.
us, don't
Yes.
they?
Yes. It's there. That's right. It's definitely there. And then of course we model after our parents. So if your
Mhm.
father was really strong and stiff upper lip or whatever, and would not allow his feelings, will take our lessons from our parents.
Mm?
And so
Oh,
that happens.
absolutely. Yeah. So sorry, I waylaid you. I took you on
Oh,
another
no, no.
track.
So the E is engage. All loss, and it doesn't have to just be loss from death, involves the loss of relationships and connections.
Mm-hmm.
And we forget, especially in the United States, that we are social beings
Yes.
and that we are literally wired to bond with other people.
Hmm.
So when you lose somebody, you're triggering a survival response in your body. A fight, flee, freeze
Yes.
literally triggers the same chemicals in your body,
Mm.
because we survive better in community. So one of the first things I have to work with after we get through the emotions is reconnecting my clients to their community, to other people.
Mm.
If they've lost somebody that they're really close to, a lot, in the United States, it's like, it's just the pair, the husband and the wife, and then the
Mm.
rest of the people are irrelevant. And then you lose that person, and suddenly you realize that you were all alone, and you have
Mm.
to reach out to people and make new connections. So that's the E, is to engage with other people and to create that container of support. So then the R is reframe. And this is also hugely important
Mm-hmm.
because when we go into grief, the mind works over time to try and make sense of things. And oftentimes there's a very negative mindset about what your prospects are for your future. And it
Mm.
can really, and it'll remind you of all the things that you did wrong, and shouldn't you have told your husband or your spouse that they were sick, and shouldn't you have done more, and shouldn't you have shown them how
Mm.
much you love them, and all that, it goes on and on and on. And so we have to work on the mindset because it can drive you crazy.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant brain, it's really useful, but it needs to be tamed. It
Yes.
needs to be minded.
Mm.
So that's reframe. And we actually go so far as to reframe the person's whole life so that
Okay.
they look at everything and see how everything has moved forward to this point in their life, and actually provides the foundations and the clues to where you're going.
Oh.
And so the ultimate after that, the next one, V, is vision. What is it that you want in your life? Where do you want to go next? And this is so important, Nate, because
Yes.
I have met women who got stuck in the grief and that became their new identity.
Mm.
Oh, I'm the widow who lost the love of my life. And
Yes.
that became their whole sense of who they
Mm-hmm.
were. And they told their stories and they reveled in it and and they enjoyed the special perks that come from being the grieving widow,
Mm.
but they're like stuck in the past.
Yes.
So vision is V.
A very important part.
Very important is
Mm.
to get the client moving forward into where they're going next.
Yeah.
And then the final one is another E, and that is to express. So it's not enough to have a vision. You have to materialize it. You have to bring it into being. And you do that by expressing it, of putting it into the world, either in, like me, I put it into film, or it
Mm-hmm.
could be dance, or it could be a book, or it could be a program, some way in which it gets manifest and helps other people in the world, because that's what we're here for.
I love that so much. And really hearing you talk about it and such clear parts, and that it moves forward and that they know who they are and who they were and who they need to be now is so important. And particularly with the listeners who have been through trauma, we know that a lot of people who've been through trauma want to go back to who they used to be before their trauma.
Uh-huh. That makes
We
sense.
hear that so often, but the reality is we can't be that person again because we have the learnings and the lessons and the experiences as a result of what we've been through that help shape us. And they
Right,
can, as you've said, they can be a really great gift because
right.
then we can see the value, what's important to us, what really matters, like you did with that moment in your life with your mum.
Yep,
It helped shape everything you did moving forward.
it did. It really did.
Yeah. So knowing that you're covering off that identity of who they are and who they need to be is really powerful. I love that.
Well, and help them to see who they really are.
Mm-hmm.
That part of themselves that gives them goosebumps, that
Yeah.
excites them, and provide them with that social support. It's like I'm the initial social support that helps to encourage them to embrace
Mm-hmm.
their true feelings, their true self, their true desires.
Yeah. So let's go back to some of your story then. So, what were some of your biggest roadblocks or obstacles that you faced during your healing journey?
Well, the first obstacle I had was that I had shut down my feelings. Now, not completely, because it turns out that I am super sensitive, Nate.
Yeah.
I actually can feel other people's feelings.
Hmm.
If they have blocks in their body, I feel it in my body. I'm super sensitive. But because of that trauma of having my father disappear overnight, I shut down my sensation and I hung out in my head.
Mm.
Any of you out there hang out in your head? Well, I loved my head. I loved my brain. It was so smart and it had so many great ideas and it was so entertaining. But it would take effort for me to get back into my body. And so that
Mm.
was the first thing I had to learn was how to feel and I to this day I have a morning ritual that involves putting oil on my body and massaging it into my skin to sensitize the nerve endings in my skin.
Wow, what a great way to reconnect with yourself.
It is
Yeah.
it's really it's exceptional. And then of course I do yoga and all sorts of other things,
Mm.
but it is a conscious effort for me to stay in my body,
Mm.
to remember it and to recognize it and acknowledge it. And that is what I teach my clients because that is key to healing grief is to because the body has so much wisdom.
Mm. It
And
certainly does. And after we go through trauma or significant grief, we do tend to disconnect. Well, I always talk about the three brains, the head, the heart, and the gut. And you gave a very great example around how you went into your head because that
yeah,
was safer,
yeah,
because it hurt, was too painful to
yep,
feel.
yep,
So your heart brain disconnected,
yes.
and that gut brain, you said you used to be really intuitive and could feel how other people operated and what was going on for them, but you would have likely switched off that gut brain as well because it was safer and you stopped trusting yourself, trusting others. And that's what happens when we go through something significant. And it's about reconnecting our three brains, the head, the heart, and the gut. So you've very beautifully
Identified
shared the.
that. So this is the interesting thing is that the gut was what enabled me to suss out what other people wanted from me.
Mm,
That's why I was so good at it. I would go into a classroom, I knew exactly what the teacher wanted, and I would give it to them, and they loved me.
I bet they did. Worked right into your people pleasing ways, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, I just played right into it.
Mm. So you were still connected, but not necessarily
Not for
feeling
me. I
that.
wasn't connected to what I
Exactly.
needed, but that is so part of the process of learning who you are is recognizing that some of the things that you see that you think are detriments might actually be attributes.
Mm.
That is that the people pleasing also taught me skills for being able to help my clients, to really
Yes.
see them
Mm.
and to understand them and feel them. So it's like there's a lot of benefit in some of the things
Definitely.
that we want to discard them, but actually we may be able to bring them forward into our new vision.
Oh, I'm a firm believer in that, that our experiences teach us so much. They are full of learnings and lessons, and not all bad. That they're almost that double-edged sword. It's like, well, yes, that's that shadow side, but what's the other side? How can I use that in a healthy, helpful way
To
for
the
people?
heart, you talked about the three brains and the heart. So part of my problem was that in becoming a people pleaser, I had shut down my heart. I'd shut down my heart with my father.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to control what came to me. And I believe that my first husband left me because he had issues about not being loved by his mother. And there I was, the
Mm.
reproduction of his mother, because I wasn't able to love. But
Yeah.
I have done a lot of work around that. And I
Mm.
am much more loving, much more aware of my heart. I do a spiritual practice that's all about love, that is emphasizes connecting to the heart.
Mm. And you've touched on two big things that a lot of my podcast guests have shared that I believe have shown themselves throughout the just over a year that I've been podcasting, have shown that community is really important, as is some sort of spiritual practice. Doesn't have to be a religious practice, but some sort of connection to something outside ourselves.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Mm,
Very important. Thank you for mentioning that. It was a big part of my healing
mm,
was, and I've been doing a spiritual practice for over 40 years. Study with a teacher and reconnected to my body, reconnected to love. And that's how I was able it, to find my current husband and be able to connect with him at that level.
oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, how would you say the experience that you've been through in your life, particularly around the time when your mum was about to pass away, how has that transformed your perspective on life, on relationships, on your personal values?
It's interesting. I have told my story of my mother many times because I'm a Toastmaster and I actually participated in some of the contests, and I have told the story so many times that it has changed my perspective of my mother. It has healed my relationship with her. And I understand her so much better because of the early childhood work I did, and because I believe that storytelling is healing. That
Yes.
when we tell our story, especially when you have to tell a story as a speech and it needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, you have to structure it, and I think that's why I have people tell their life story is that they have a beginning, a middle, and now what's going to be the end? We got to get a good ending, right? We all like good endings.
You can write your own ending. I love that.
Yeah, yes. And you can write your own editing, but people don't know that they can. But once
No.
they learn, it's like, oh my gosh, I can have the ending I want.
Mm.
So that has been a very powerful awakening for me is realizing that. But I forget exactly what your question was. Do you remember? Have I answered it?
Yes, yes, you've answered it. It was how else your perspective on, and I think you've done that as we've been talking on relationships. You sought relationships in a different way after that.
Yes.
And what about what's important to you as far as your values go as a result of what you've been through?
Values. It's such a funny word, isn't it?
It is.
Um, I, my value from the get-go, and I must have gotten it from my parents, was to be, well, responsible. But my teacher taught me the three most important values, and that is peace. It is to feel peaceful within yourself.
Yeah.
That is to have that calm and peacefulness and not
Mm.
um, to get your life into like a drama story all the time,
Mm.
which we sometimes do.
Yeah.
And then the next one is faith, but it's
Mhm.
not faith in a religion, it's faith in oneself. It's
Oh, I love that.
trusting in yourself and your own intuition and that you are going in the right way. Beautiful, right? And then the third one, which I love because it fits with who I am, is excellence. That is, that
Hmm.
everything that I engage in, I try to do my very best.
Yeah.
Not to be perfect, which of course I'm
Mm.
a perfectionist, so I would tend to do that. But
Yes, I
because
hear you.
because that is a value to me, is to
Mm.
do my best.
Yes. Mm. So excellence, not perfection.
That's right. Excellence, not perfection.
Mm. Oh, very, very powerful values. So peace, faith, and excellence.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, very much so. So, and this might lead into my next question for you is really around, and you've touched on this already as well. Are there any specific qualities or personal attributes that you would see as being important for someone moving from trauma into post traumatic growth?
Absolutely. Number one, curiosity. This will take you very, very far. And this has taken me very, very far.
Yeah.
Is that my own curiosity about what's going on inside of me? Sometimes I'll have, like a difficult time, whatever it is, something that's
Hmm.
upsetting me. And part of my mind is going to be saying, oh, you know what? I think my clients deal with this. I better take notes.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about,
Oh,
right? It's like,
absolutely.
oh
I
my
love
God.
that.
It's like, oh, okay, thank you, universe. I needed to learn this. Thank you. Yes, now
Yes,
I
we're never done
understand.
learning, are we?
We're never done learning. So, curiosity about instead of trying to repress your feelings, being curious. Oh, this person just said something that triggered me. Being curious.
Hmm.
What was it about that statement or that person? Why did I get
Mm.
triggered by that? What's underneath it? And
Mm.
curiosity helps to step you out of that reactivity
Yes.
into a different place. Of course, I told you I was heady, so the head would love to come
Mm.
in and sort of
Yeah.
problem solve what that is, but it's really helpful that
Mm.
particular. And then, of course, for my clients, is being willing to try things out.
Yes.
You
And I
got to be
think,
willing
for
because I'm going to ask you to do stuff that you're going to say. But if you just try it out and see what happens, what's the result, it will have a huge impact.
so getting them to agree when they come in as your client that they're willing to give it a try.
That's right. Well, it's part of the contract.
Yeah.
They have to they have to
Very
follow the
important.
program, and the
Yeah.
program has got very specific exercises that you need to do to change.
Yeah. And I would imagine that, as someone who's had a fair bit of grief in my life, that that's part of it, isn't it? That you need to be willing to come in and give it a go, but you're going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to
Yes.
like it one bit when you have to go outside your comfort zone and feel stuff that hurts.
Yes. So somebody was using the word the other day, uh, tolerance, that you have to tolerate a certain amount of discomfort in order to get to the next place. Isn't that beautiful?
Mm, yeah. And as psychologists, we would talk about that window of tolerance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what
Yeah.
it's like when you're outside that, particularly after trauma or grief. Very similar because, they're interwoven, aren't they? A lot of the times under
Yes,
grief
they
is
are.
always some layer of trauma that's unhealed or unresolved.
That's right. And, sometimes the trauma seems like a little trauma. I mean, from the outside, my particular story seemed like minor. But that early childhood injury
Mm,
was huge. And
yes.
psychologists have done studies of children who go through a traumatic experience like
Mm,
that. And it has a huge impact on
yes.
your life, and it can reverberate throughout your life.
And
So those of you out there who've had little traumas, don't beat yourself up and say, what's the matter with you? Look at this person. They've had much bigger trauma. What the hell's the matter with me? No,
mm,
we all have our own journey and our own story.
that is really, really important. You just nailed it because I hear that a lot that, oh, but mine's only a little T trauma that, I don't know why I feel like this. And they're criticizing that self criticism is huge. It's like, hang on a minute.
Yeah,
Throw
really.
that out the door. We don't
Yeah.
come in here with that. It's every bit of it, every experience you've had, if it doesn't feel safe or right for you, whether it's a little t or a big t is irrelevant. We
Yes,
can't compare ourselves to anyone else because if it's feeling awful for you, there's a reason. You
that's
have an
right.
experience and a life of experiences that you bring. You're not just the person standing in the room or sitting in the room right now. You've got a lifetime of experiences. And as you've said, other experiences from our parents, our grandparents that have been handed down, that intergenerational stuff.
That intergenerational stuff.
And you talked about waking every morning thinking, oh, had you been killed in a past life? I can imagine that would have gone through your head, particularly when you're in your head all the time. Have I been through something like that? And Who knows? But it was your body, because we know that all our experiences, good and bad, are held in our nervous system.
That's it. That's it. And when you're 2 years old, you don't have the cognitive development to hold it in your brain. So you hold it all in your body. And then you have no idea what's going on because there's no interpretation, and your mind is like trying to make sense of it. And it's like, why am I
Mm.
feeling so much anxiety when I wake up in the morning?
Yeah. And now, when you get that perspective and you can see it, you go, oh, of course. My body carried that. My nervous system carried that all these years. And for you, your mum, for me, there's been other things along the way that's almost the excuse in inverted commas. Now you can cry and grieve because there's a reason. But
Yes,
often it's
yes,
like the floodgates open and all the other stuff that we've hidden for all these years comes out as well, doesn't it?
it does. It does.
And you would see that with your clients.
Yes, but for me, I celebrate it. I say, "Oh, this
Mm,
is fantastic! Oh, you're finally clearing this whole stuff out. We're cleaning out the house,
exactly. Definitely.
making space for new life."
Exactly. Making space, clearing it out. And as you said, clearing house. I love it. Oh, so if you were to give, share one thing that would help our listeners as they navigate from trauma to post traumatic growth, what would it be?
Well, to be friends with your body, to be refriend your body. And I
Mhm.
understand that with trauma, you might really want to leave your body. I certainly want to leave my body,
Yeah.
but your body has so much to tell you. And one of the things that I teach and work with my clients around is how to listen to your body and
Mm-hmm.
hear what it's saying. And I've studied psychosomatics and
Mm-hmm.
psychosomatic symptoms. And so each part of your body, where the trauma is, where it's stuck, has a message for you. That's where that curiosity is. Okay, what is it
Absolutely.
telling me? And it has a lot. So start listening. Oh, you have an ache in your elbow. Okay, what does that mean? Or oh, your heart hurts, or you have your neck hurts, or
Mm.
there's congestion in your throat, or you have a hard time speaking. These all have very, very common sense meanings, and usually they're spot on. The body is like isn't trying to be hide from you. It's like, hello.
The body keeps a score. Good old
It
Bessel
does.
van der Kolk tells us.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, very true, isn't it? So you've shared an absolute wealth of wisdom today. I'm so grateful that you've been able to come on. Now, I know we talked about grief and complex grief, and you've shared a little bit about that, but I'd love for you to share. I know you've got a really cool checklist or assessment. Tell us
Yes.
about that because I know that there's a
Yes.
lot of people that definitely, with their trauma, come grief. So,
Right.
yeah.
So the checklist is a list of 20 questions about your grief and about how you've been handling the grief that will help you to identify whether or not you have complex grief and how it is affecting you in your life. And so after you finish the checklist, you get a report from me that helps you to unpack your results and understand how it affects you and what your options are moving forward.
Mm,
So how do you get it? So how
yeah.
you get it is you go to www.complexchecklist.com and there it is. You go to a landing page, you fill out the form, you go to the checklist and you fill out the checklist and then you get the report.
Fantastic. And I'll put that in the show notes for our listeners anyway, so they can go and check it out themselves because I know there would be very few people, if you're human, that hasn't got some level of grief. And I know for many of us who have had trauma that it's highly likely there's some complex grief going on.
Now, sometimes you might have a loss that's not complex or doesn't trigger the complex stuff
Hmm.
behind, and that, you just need to grieve it. Maybe it's the loss of, a family friend, and you feel close to them and it brings up stuff. Always be curious, but it might not put you into that deep grief, like, a close partner or a child or a parent.
Mm.
But that's okay. You like, just, you just wait. The universe will provide you with the grief you need.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that. Put that out there.
But enjoy, whatever. So when that happened to me, I had somebody who had died, who was a friend of the family, is very close. And I actually flew all the way back to New Jersey to participate in his memorial service because he had had an impact on me. And I wrote a blog about snow days, that when we were children, we would take snow days. And wasn't it wonderful? We would take a day off, right? It was so great to treat these griefs that, normally we'd like, well, it's not my mother, it's not my father, it's not my brother, it's not my husband, but that we still have grief to release and
Yeah.
to take a snow day.
Oh, I love it. Snow days. I like that. Does it matter if you don't get snow?
No, it doesn't matter if you don't get
Don't get
snow. I
any
live in
snow.
California, we never get snow.
We'll call it a beach day over here.
Yes. Well, but I grew up on the East Coast, and I remember as a child looking out the window at night, watching the snow come down underneath the street lamp and saying, "Ooh, maybe we won't have school tomorrow. We'll have a snow day."
What we all wished for.
We did, we did.
Oh, too funny. So, as we move to wrapping the conversation up, where can our listeners find out more about you and find you online?
Well, I am on Facebook
Mm-hmm.
under Michelle Peticolas, and I'm on LinkedIn under Michelle Peticolas, or Peticola. I told you to pronounce it Peticola because it's French. And but if you sign up for the complex grief checklist, you'll get on my mailing list, and then you'll hear lots from me.
Excellent. Oh, that's very exciting. Now, I like to finish. Oh, sorry, you were about to
Oh,
say
I
something?
wanted one more thing. I
Yeah.
do have a website, and it's called secretsoflifeanddeath.com, named after my film series. It's in the process of being redone,
Mm-hmm.
a long process of being redone, but there is some really great blogs in there, and there is the trailers for my films are there as well.
Oh, excellent. So I'll put all of that in the show notes so our listeners can go and check you out and connect with you because I know you love connecting and you're happy
I
for
do.
them to message you and you'll message back. So that's good.
Absolutely.
Now, I like to finish our podcast with what do you think your youngest self would think of what you've done now?
I think my younger self would feel totally held and supported by me, that she would feel finally seen and loved and cherished.
Oh,
And so she would really be cheering me on, but
oh,
mainly she'd be feeling loved.
oh, that's so beautiful. Who would ever have thought that little 2-year-old who shut down everything could get to the point that she's at now? That's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Look at you go. And I think that that's a really clear message for our listeners that anything is possible, that you can go through terrible times and really find your way back to you, who you were always meant to be.
Well, actually, I believe that's the purpose of our lives, that
I
we
agree.
come in a particular circumstance to give us our hero's journey. And in that hero's journey, we find out who we are and we gain tools and skills and capacity. And
Mm,
we get to pass that on to other people.
nailed it. I love that. So you can be the hero in your own journey
You
and
can be the,
you can write your ending.
and you can write your own ending. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming along today, Michelle. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It was a great enjoyment for me as well, Nate. Thank you for remembering to invite me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me in this episode of Growing Tall Poppies. It is my deepest hope that today's episode may have inspired and empowered you to step fully into your post-traumatic growth so that you can have absolute clarity around who you are, what matters the most to you, and to assist you to release your negative emotions and regulate your nervous system so you can fully thrive. New episodes are published every Tuesday, and I hope you'll continue to join us as we explore both the strategies and the personal qualities required to fully live a life of post-traumatic growth and to thrive. So if it feels aligned to you and really resonates, then I invite you to hit subscribe, and it would mean the world to us if you could share this episode with others who you feel may benefit too. You may also find me on Instagram at Growing Tall Poppies and Facebook, Dr. Natalie Green. Remember, every moment is an opportunity to look for the lessons and to learn and increase your ability to live the life you desire and deserve. So for now, stay connected, stay inspired, stand tall like the tall poppy you are, and keep shining your light brightly in the world. Bye for now.